Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. If you see me muting Aaron today, just mind your own business. I don't know what he's wearing. I don't know why he's wearing that. I could never ever talk smack about a playoff basketball series. It couldn't be me, so I just don't get what's going on with Aaron.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Jordan,
Bet.
and my team loses game sevens at home. But hey,
And
you know
I'm a
what?
champion.
This show is about high school sports, not about professional sports. I mean, what are we even doing here? But hey, it was an eventful weekend in sports. A pretty crazy weekend. We got some cooler weather here all of a sudden. It felt like, 90 degrees last week, and now we're all sitting here recording in hoodies. I mean, and long sleeves. What's going on there? But what a crazy weekend that we've had. How was everyone's weekend? You guys get to enjoy yourselves at all watching any of the games?
Yeah, well, I was able to watch pretty much the entire game yesterday. I covered something in the morning, which I'll get into, and then did work the rest of the day. But it was nice to have a little chunk there, and then covered something Saturday night. So Saturday was kind of filled. It's probably we're getting back to the point where it's we have like 2 or 3 different segments that are the busiest times of the year for us, as you guys know. One of those is basketball playoffs, like the last week or so, along with soccer. And then the other one is right now, these 2 weeks in May leading up to the baseball and softball championships. So you got all the other sports going on. And right now it feels like it's just hitting that peak. So pretty busy weekend, but I did get a chance to watch the game. Yeah.
How about you, Matt? How was your weekend?
Dandy.
All right. And Aaron, kind of to what you said, those 2 busiest times of the year, I always joke and people are like, well, what about the fall sport playoffs? And it's like, well, fall sports are easy because the ideology with a newspaper is if there's a football game to cover versus anything else, the football game's where you should be.
Right, exactly.
And volleyball's
Usually,
on different nights. So
right, and usually the championships for volleyball and cross country, anything else, are usually about a week or two before the football, instead of everything being at the same time. And there's less sports in the fall than there are in the spring, so that's why I'd say that too.
right. And speaking of that, we've had a busy week. We have some league races still coming down to the wire. I know we have a big series with Del Oro and Granite Bay in baseball this week where, hey, you win 2 games in that, 2 out of 3 in that series, you go to the playoffs, and the loser is going to be watching from home. The FVL is separated by, I believe it's something crazy like,
I think it's one game right now between
one
Pondo
game.
and
And
between Pondo and Placer. Yeah.
right, yeah, one game between Pondo and Placer. Nevada Union's 2 games back from a playoff spot, and they play a team that they're battling for a playoff spot this week. So just a crazy week of that. And PVL as well. We have 12 Bridges and Bear River duking it out. I know the CAL is tied. I mean, everything's close. But some games this last week kind of helped take the shape of that, and we were at some of those. Aaron, let's start with you. Where were you at last week for the first half, and what did you see?
Yeah. So for the first game I was at last Monday, I was at Rockland for which I may have mentioned this on the show last week because I know we
You
recorded
did because
Tuesday.
we recorded on Tuesday.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
Well, then I won't get into Monday because I mentioned where I was at Monday of last week. Thank you for the save there, Matt. So we'll go ahead and get into Tuesday. Tuesday, I was announcing a senior night for Lincoln Heights Stunt, who had 2 games against 12 Bridges and Pondo. I was at the Lincoln 12 Bridges game earlier this year at 12 Bridges. It was a great atmosphere. Another great atmosphere here between 2 Lincoln schools. We'll probably talk about this in a later show. I wish those 2 teams were in the same league with realignment, but they won't be. Anyways, the first game, Lincoln 12 Bridges, the Zebras won 19-4, which is an improvement from the last time they played 12 Bridges. And then the Zebras won 20-1 over Ponderosa. Lincoln competed in the section playoffs this week and made it to the semis before falling to, I believe, Oak Ridge. So a big run for the Zebras as they almost won another section championship. And then on Wednesday, it was a Lincoln week for me. It just everything seemed to fall into place for Lincoln. This week it won't be the same. But Wednesday I was at Lincoln again for another senior night. This one was lacrosse against Wood Creek. The Timberwolves won their final regular season game 16-4 as Camden Tronis scored 6 goals and added 3 assists. I know that I mentioned this in an earlier show. I think he's over 110 goals and 100 assists in his varsity career. So crazy for him. He's actually going to be going to UNR along with Caden Smith from Whitney. And then goalkeeper Braden Burke for Wood Creek had 14 saves. The Zebras definitely struggled defensively in that game. They went on to lose to Del Oro in the final game on Friday. Thursday, I was at Lincoln versus Nevada Union softball, where the Zebras came back to win 8-6 and solidified themselves in second in the FVL. The Zebras were actually down 6-2. And Nevada Union, they came into the game 3-11, but they did not look like a bad side. That shows you once again how competitive the FVL is, even in softball. Zebras down 6-2 entering the fifth inning, but stormed back with 3 runs in both the fifth and the sixth. In the sixth inning, senior Shea Palafox hit the go-ahead 2 RBI single. She also pitched the last 2.2 innings of the game on the mound, only giving up 1 hit and I believe 4 base runners. The Zebras are 4-2 in the FBL. They face Placer on Tuesday and have a huge game against Oakmont on Thursday. The Zebras won that last game against the Vikings 6-5. So looking forward to seeing how that one goes.
All right, I like it. Yeah, FVL, I mean, that league, I think, in almost all sports now, it's competitive. I mean, top to bottom, girls soccer, we had 2 FVL teams in the section championship. I mean, basketball season, you guys heard us, softball, baseball, it's one of the best leagues out there. It's a shame that, it's going to be broken up a little bit with realignment, but it's they've given us a fun season this year in almost all sports, it feels like.
Definitely.
And Matt, throwing it over to you, where were you at to start this week and what'd you see?
Yeah, Tuesday I went to watch Granite Bay and Oak Ridge play softball. They had played on Saturday, and Oak Ridge won that game. I don't have the score in front of me, but Oak Ridge won that one. So I went Tuesday to check out the final game of the back-to-back, and Granite Bay won this one 3-1 behind Avery Sava, their star pitcher, who did not pitch on Saturday, but she got the day off because her arm was bothering her, just fatigue, general fatigue. And Oak Ridge's pitcher, Ellison Schrader, she took Saturday and Tuesday off. She didn't pitch either game because her arm was bothering her. All these pitchers are, they had all these rainouts earlier in the year, and now they're all stacking these games up, and their arms are getting tired. So this one, Avery Sava, her coach Brian said that she didn't have her best stuff, but she had her best stuff beat Oak Ridge because she only allowed 1 run and only gave up like 2 or 3 hits, I think. So she didn't strike out many, but I don't know how many she normally strikes out. But she did the job for them. And Granite Bay scored all 3 of their runs in 1 inning. They had 2 hits to start an inning off. Oak Ridge got the first out, and then Granite Bay got 1 hit and scored 2 runs. Wild pitch scored another one, and then another hit scored another one. So that was that. Brian Sava said that, he likes his team. He likes they're competitive, but he still feels they have more offense in them. They haven't produced like he thought they would offensively. As long as Avery pitches like she does, she'll be all right. They'll be all right. But he said we're still looking for more offense out of us. So at Oak Ridge, they're young. They're going to make the playoffs. They'll be around. So it was a good game. And then after that, I went over to watch the lacrosse semifinals. I just watched one game of Vista company out of Vista against Granite Bay. Vista boys won that 21-9 to reach the finals Thursday against Oak Ridge. Wednesday, I went to game 2 of the Folsom Oak Ridge baseball series. Game 1 was a great game. Game 2 is also a great game. Folsom had a 6-0 lead going into the top of the 6th inning. And Oak Ridge scored 6 runs to tie it up. And I was like, oh my gosh. You just think momentum right there. Oak Ridge is, the better team. They're a game up in the standings. But so Oak Ridge comes back, scores 6 runs to tie it. Let's see here. Sean Carey, Folsom starting pitcher, got fatigued in that line in the 6th inning. He walked a couple of guys, gave up a hit, and they pulled him. And as soon as they pulled him, Oak Ridge pounced. Because Carey, he walked 2 to load the bases. They replaced with John Kim. Oak Ridge greeted Kim with a pair of singles by Patrick Webb and Ryan Spiro before a Caden Kochik double made it 6-4. So Jacob Noel came in to replace Kim. Oak Ridge got Kim allowed a sacrifice fly, make it 6-5. And then another run came in, making it 6-6. So it's tied up. So you think, okay, Folsom's down. They're I don't know. I thought it was over. I mean, first batter in the bottom of the sixth, Logan Hunt, home run, Folsom. They go up 7-6. They added insurance run, making 8-6. Oak Ridge comes back and gets one run back. Final score 8-7 Bulldogs. So it was a great win, great comeback for Oak Ridge to, not lay down 6-0. And I don't know. Dare I say even greater comeback for Folsom to come back after losing, after giving up 6 runs to come back and score 2. I mean, that was impressive. And then Folsom went on to win the series Friday with a 3-1 win. So they did it. They beat Oak Ridge. So that was a nice win for them.
Definitely. And, I mean, again, more of a testament to what this SFL looks like too. Anyone's beating anyone on any given night. I mean, and I think that's kind of going to ring true in the playoffs too. We're going to see a lot of teams. I wouldn't be shocked to see some low seeds beat some high seeds and, some crazy stuff, because everyone can have an off night and you have an off night at the wrong time and your season's over.
I don't know what the rest of the playoffs, I don't know what the rest of the brackets are like, but no team in the SFL really has a great win-loss record, maybe aside from Whitney. But Folsom and Oak Ridge and Rockland, Delaware, I mean, those teams could easily win a couple games in the playoffs. So
Oh, absolutely. And I'll get into the Whitney thing here in a minute. But I'll start, I guess, my week started with with a little bit of softball. It was Pioneer Valley League softball, and 3 teams sat tied for second place entering last week. And 2 of those teams were playing each other in Colfax and Wheatland. The PVL, despite adding Sutter and Wheatland, who are 2 powerhouses in the northern section, they didn't add an extra playoff spot for the league. So still only 3 playoff spots up for grabs, even though it's an 8-team league that added 2 of the best teams, which I thought was an interesting decision. But that really made this series had massive implications. And the game kind of, disappointed. It was in Wheatland. It was the first, really hot day of the year, it felt like. And one thing I've noted, I talked to some Colfax parents and the coach too, and she said, it's one thing when we're playing it a little bit higher, but she goes, when you get the first hot day of the year and we're up in Colfax and not in Wheatland, she's like, you gotta think that's like 15 to 20 degrees hotter than what they've been used to playing in. And it's just like, boom, right there. Like, it just hits you. And not that that's making excuses, but you could tell it was bugging them. I mean, there were a lot of mental errors. Wheatland ended up winning this one 11-1 in 5 innings. But get this, 8 of Wheatland's 11 runs were scored with 2 outs in the inning, and only 1 run was earned. So it was just errors, mistakes. Colfax pitcher Sophia Chavez, I thought, did a good job. Wheatland did hit 3 home runs in this, but I think all 3 home runs came with 2 outs and came after an error. So it's a tough one when it's like, yeah, they hit 3 home runs, but those at bats should have never happened, and they should have never been coming up with 2 runners on or anything like that. I mean, it's different when you're on pitch number 20 of an inning with 2 outs versus pitch number 1 of an inning with no outs. I mean, you approach that batter differently. So the game, I thought, could have gone different. I think Colfax really shot itself in the foot there. And Colfax's coach kind of said it too. She goes, we didn't play our best game today, and we can't make 6 errors and expect to compete with a team like this. Wheatland, they had a solid game. Their pitcher, Chastity Sills, she had a good game. She allowed 1 run, 3 hits. So Colfax wasn't necessarily hitting the ball well, but again, you can't make 6 errors against a team like that and expect to win. And Wheatland ended up taking the second game of that series as well to sweep it. I believe the second game final score was 5-1. So a little bit of a closer game. Colfax played better. And it was a close game for a while, and Wheatland kind of poured it on in the later innings. But now Colfax is sitting there in 4th in that league behind Wheatland, who's 9-3, Marysville is 9-3, and Sutter, who's 10-0, and Sutter's winning that league. I mean, but Colfax has 2 against Wheatland, so you take 2 of those games and you're still in the playoffs. Those are your last 2 games, but you're setting yourself up for a pretty tough spot that you now have to sweep the defending league champ and the number 2 team in that league now. So, I mean, I think Colfax will definitely take 1 from them. I think they match up well, but again, even if it's a team that you match up with pretty evenly, you can't expect to take 2 from them and put your season on that. So a tough spot for Colfax. And another little tidbit to give a shout out to is Del Oro. 2 weeks ago, Del Oro was 3-7, coming off a fourth consecutive loss in SFL play. And Aaron, I think you and I kind of had a talk when we were talking about some SFL softball stuff, or I think we were just talking about some stuff before a show once, and we thought, hey, the D2 section champs might not even make the playoffs to defend their title. And since then, they claimed wins over Franklin, Whitney twice, and Granite Bay, and now they're tied for third in the SFL. And they did get a loss this last weekend to St. Francis, but that's a team that's surging at the right time. And I looked at this SAC Max Preps playoff projections. They have DO getting, I think it was a 3 seed in their projections. I can't imagine with their schedule, even if they finish 500, they're going to get anything lower than a top 4 seed in Division 2. So that's a team to watch out for, because again, we say you just have to get in, and who knows what happens. And then I'll kind of get to, even though it's more in the later half of the week, my weekend was so packed, I'll get to the second half of my week here. And that is baseball. Placer ended up sweeping West Park, first sweep in the FVL this season. I was at game 2 of that series on Thursday. Placer beat West Park 14-5 in Roseville. West Park actually scored first. Placer ended up taking the lead, and then West Park tied at 3-3. And then Placer used an 8-run 6th inning to take an 11-3 lead. Most of those runs came with 2 outs. Placer's rally began with a sac fly by Hayden Bailey to make it 4-3. Nick Schaefer stretched it to 2 with an RBI walk. And then Daniel Corkery blew the game wide open with a bases clearing double to make it 8-3. Hillman kept the foot on the gas. And then the big thing too, even though he gave up 5 runs, Jack Williamson pitched a complete game, which was huge because in game 1 of that series, Placer threw their ace Cam Staten. He pitched 6 innings, and then Williamson actually came in because he's normally the closer, and he earned the save. And then he gets a start in game 2 and goes a complete game. So Placer is sitting there after game 2, and they've only used 2 pitchers through 14 innings. So, I mean, that's huge going into Friday's matchup where they beat West Park 11-0. So clearly, it showed that they saved their pitching. And then Colfax ace Marcus Mader, he no-hit Wheatland earlier in the week, and Colfax is sweeping them. They've now won 12 in a row. They're looking at probably the top seed in Division 5. And then the PVL shook up. Bear River shuts out Sutter to put Colfax into sole possession of first. Bear River's freshman Caden Nichols threw a 3-0 shutout to drop Sutter to 16-5 on the season, 8-2 in league. He struck out 10, surrendered just 4 hits. And now Bear River moves into a tie in the PVL with 12 Bridges, where 12 Bridges has 2 against Sutter. Bear River has 2 against Marysville, or not Marysville. Why am I blanking on who they're playing? Wheatland. So, now it's looking like, hey, that win was an unexpected win for the Bruins. And now you set yourself up nicely because you just need to win 1 game because Sutter's likely going to be sweeping 12 Bridges and you're in the playoffs. So huge win there for the Bruins, and yeah, shook everything up. And Aaron, kind of moving over to you, second half of your week, where were you at and what did you see?
Yeah, so just one more thing I wanted to add about where you mentioned, where Del Oro's at in the bracket for softball. Yeah, they are projected the 3 seed, interestingly enough, which, it makes sense. Granite Bay is projected as the 2 seed, which means that there could be a Del Oro Granite Bay semifinal matchup with the winner making the section championship. So I just thought that was kind of a little cool.
And hey, it almost feels like we saw that earlier this year. Oh yeah, football. Wasn't that
that's a good point.
It's almost the exact opposite. It's a team that struggled in the start of the season, surging at the right time, gets a little bit of the lower seed against their rival. So I don't know. It's weird how these things work out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Good deja vu right there. But yeah, in terms of the second half of my week, it was basically the weekend. Saturday, I was at McBean Park for Lincoln baseball senior night against Valley Christian Academy, where the Zebras walked it off to win 4-3. There was a light delay in the bottom of the second for about 15 minutes. And then finally we had more baseball. Valley Christian, I talked to Coach Gunter, and they're projected right now as the 4th seed in Division 7, even though they are one of the better teams in Division 7. They're going to have to beat Leroy Green this week, which is a really talented side. They have actually some talent that came over from Alpha Charter, which closed down last year, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were a section champion. It's just, yeah. But it's just impressive that, Valley Christian's putting up a fight still as a D7 team against a D3 team that's in the FVL. As we always mention how competitive the FVL is. In terms of the game, the Zebras got on the board following a VCA error in the second. Valley Christian got one back with a Micah Bertrand double in the third. Zebras respond with a Nathan Munch RBI in the fourth inning. So then it's 2-1. Valley Christian took the lead after RBIs in both the fifth and the sixth, but Lincoln walked it off in the seventh with a Kenny Winters fly ball to right that failed to be caught, and that was the game. They called it a 2 RBI double. I didn't have the best view of it from where I was sitting at the announcer's table. I thought it was an error on the right fielder, but we'll give it to Kenny. Xavier Maldonado, the starting pitcher for Lincoln, the senior, had 10 strikeouts and two runs in 4.1 innings of work. It's going to be interesting to see, what happens for the playoffs too for Valley Christian, because if they go and beat Leroy Green this week, they're probably going to move up from that projected 4th spot to maybe a 2 or a 3, meaning that we might see a rematch with them and Turlock Christian in the section championship if they can, make it through the gauntlet. The Zebras actually have to end the season strong, as they're 6-6 and tied for 3rd with Oakmont. Only top 4 teams make it. I was going to add a nugget too about the FVL, and Jordan, we talked about it. I want to say that Nevada Union right now is 14-11. I could be wrong on that, but I believe they're 14-11 and 5-7 in league play. There is a world that they could finish 16-12 and 7-8 in league and not make the playoffs, and that's just crazy because of how competitive that league is. But hey, it's made for some good baseball, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this week finishes. The Zebras are going to face West Park, and I'll be at one of those games, as I'll get into in a little bit. Sunday,
Aaron, not to cut you off on it, but that's where it seems, a quick question on that. I don't get, you look at the teams in the FVL that are in the playoffs right now in the projections. Pondo's a 2 seed in D3, Lincoln's a 4 seed in D3, and then Placer's a 2 seed in D4, Oakmont's a 3 seed in D4 on the projection. So it's like, if you're producing 4 top 4 seeds in their brackets, and Division 4 is a 13 team bracket, you're telling me you can't make an at-large spot or 2 for some of these teams? Like,
there's definitely going to be a team, even if West Park misses it, unless they get swept this last week, which is a possibility. You could make an argument that, every single team in the FVL would deserve to make it, and there's somebody that's going to be in there that you feel is just not deserving because that team's better. But also, I look at it from perspective of, West Park basketball in their first season, and they made the playoffs, and all due respect, and they put up a fight in that first round game for boys basketball. They were like 7-20 or something like that, and they made it, so that didn't feel too deserving. So, I feel bad for West Park baseball, but if they finish, like almost 500 and don't make it, hey, you made it for basketball, right?
Fair. So I guess, hey, give and take.
Yeah. But getting into Sunday, which was yesterday, I was at Johnson Ranch Sports Club in Granite Bay for the APP SunMed Sacramento Open for pickleball, and watched the men's singles title match. Get this. So twin brothers Hunter and Yates Johnson going at it. They're from New Mexico. They now reside in Texas. They played doubles with each other earlier in the week, and they're actually really good in doubles. They lost the bronze medal match, and I believe it was the bronze medal match. It might have been the match before that. But they are now in the singles gold match. So when they're playing doubles, they wear the exact same shirts, all the exact same attire. So it's insanely it's almost impossible to tell them apart. When they're playing singles, one wears white socks, one wears black socks. So that's the way the referee can tell them apart. So Hunter wore white, Yates wore black. It was a really entertaining match. Yates won 11-7 in the first game. Hunter responded back 11-8 in the second, and then Yates won 11-7 in the third to win it. He got his first gold medal. It was great weather and a great way to start the Sunday morning. I'll have a full recap on the event this week. One thing I'll say is I covered this event last year, and I think there was a little over 500, maybe 550 people last year. This year there were over 700 people, 500 amateurs, 200 professionals. I had to park in the lot across the street because it was so packed. There was a lot of people there coming to watch it. The sport of pickleball is still definitely growing. I want to say it's grown 158% year over year the last 3 years. So it's really cool to see. It's definitely an entertaining sport to watch. I need to get out and play it sometimes. It looks really fun to play too.
Definitely. And it's an intense sport. Those people love their sport. Matt, throwing over to you, second half of your week, what did you see from your teams?
Yeah, the Vista Lago saw about a doubleheader Thursday against El Campo. Scorching hot day. Vista won the first game 4-0, and then they won the second game 11-1. But the first game was the game I was at. They scored 2 runs in the second inning and added 2 more in the sixth. That's all they got. They looked, I don't know, they just looked kind of sluggish, but as you can see, they won the second game easily. But in the first game, Allie Morrissey drew a run-out walk, stole second, third, and then scored on Taylor Dre's ground out. Harper Nicole singled and scored on Olivia Manchester's base hit. And the sixth inning, Morrissey hit with a one-out single. Dre followed with a hit, and Nickel drew a walk to load the bases. And then Manchester, once again, the team's leadoff hitter, knocked in Morrissey, and Charlize Kai drove in Dre for the final run of the game. Manchester had 3 hits, 2 RBIs, and was quietly struck out 12 on the mound and allowed 4 hits. So she had a great game despite the heat. And then I went up to Oak Ridge to catch some girls lacrosse, Vista Lago versus Granite Bay, and the match for third in the Sacramento area. Vista was down. This was impressive. I thought they were losing the Grizzlies 10-7 at halftime, and they go 10 goals in the first half, and the second half they gave up 2 and won 14-12. So I thought it was a nice comeback by the Eagles. Shea Allen had 5 goals in the second half, I believe, to lead them. And then I watched Oak Ridge girls, who by far the team, the Sacramento area's best team, it has been for years. They rolled Davis 18-4. Annika Tanner led the way with 7 goals. Ella Rutherford scored 5. Brooklyn Price and Lexi Rios each added 2, and Tori Ross and Katie Miranda each scored 1. Bella Crovillo in goal made 5 saves, allowed 3 goals. Carly Weisser made 1 save, allowed 1 goal. And I'm just going to go into this lacrosse thing now, just because I'm on lacrosse. The playoffs, North, this is it. The last week's tournament was it for Sacramento. Now, this week, the North Coast section tournament, lacrosse tournament begins, and Folsom, Vista, and Oak Ridge are all in this tournament. So on the girls' side, Oak Ridge is number 2 seed behind San Ramon Valley, who is the only team that's beaten them. So they desperately want to rematch with them, and they think they can beat them. So that's what we're looking for in the North Coast section finals, if they make it that far. But
Matt, if you don't mind me saying, I was just going to say, if you don't mind me saying real quick, on the boys' side, what's really crazy about the North Coast section tournament this week, I know that they're not in as quite as good as a league as like the Vistas, the Oak Ridges, and SFL, but Roseville's boys team went undefeated this year. I believe they're 14-0 if I'm not mistaken. They got the 16 seed, literally the last seed in that tournament, and they're having to play top seeded, I think, De La Salle. I mean, it's insane.
Yes, I see that now that you mentioned that, but did not know that. But anyway, Oak Ridge is number 2 seed. Davis is the number 7 seed against Vista Lago, the 10 seed. So those 2 teams will play each other. And since Sacramento teams cannot play home games in this tournament, because that's like a rule they made up that, hey, we'll let you play in our tournament, but you can't have a home game. So, but in this case, Oak Ridge would have a home game because Davis and Vista Lago are lined up on the bracket next to them. So Oak Ridge have a home game Thursday against the winner of the Davis-Vista Lago game. So, and those teams have played twice in the past 3 weeks, and Davis won the first one, Vista won the second one. So that could be a good game. And Folsom Lacrosse, who upset St. Francis last Thursday in overtime, they made the tournament. They're the 13th seed, and they'll open up against 4th seed Marin Catholic. On the boys' side, I wish I could be 2 places at once, because I would have loved to see the Oak Ridge boys and Vista boys a rematch. I was at their first game. It was a great game. It was like 11-11 with midway through the third quarter, and then Vista pulled away for like a 19-11, 19-12 win. I knew this game would be closer, but I hadn't seen the girls play live yet this year, so I had to catch the Oak Ridge girls game. But anyway, Oak Ridge won. Oak Ridge upset. It was sort of a minor upset against Vista. They won 13 of 11. So Oak Ridge ends up getting the 3rd seed, and Vista only dropped 1, so they only dropped 1 to the 4th seed. So they will line up to play De La Salle in the semis when they make it that far. As Aaron said, De La Salle is the #1 team. De La Salle is also the team that knocked out Vista last year in the semifinals by the score of 9-8. So Vista Lago would love to get a second chance at them and return the favor. And like I said, Oak Ridge is a 3rd seed. They play 14th seed in Berkeley, and they could make it. You know, they have Monta Vista, the #6 seed, and then they have Marin, the Redwood, #2 seed. Now, I don't know anything about those teams, but I'm sure they're pretty good. But Oak Ridge, it's not inconceivable they could make the semifinals as well. So, good lacrosse stuff in the area for these teams.
Yeah, definitely. It's, it's a big thing. And it's an interesting rule. I wonder how many teams have to be in this area for there to be a Sac Joaquin section lacrosse, because it just seems like, you're doing a bit of a disservice. It doesn't make really any sense to be like, hey, you can compete in our tournament, but you can't play home games, when it's like, well, hold on, if we're in your tournament and we're the better team or the higher seed, why is that fair that Oak Ridge has to go out to Berkeley or something like that?
Well, I mean, because Oak Ridge has their own section to win. I think this might be the last year. I don't know that. Don't quote me on this. This might be the last year the North Coast section allows them. But, next year it just might be all Sacramento thing. I don't know, but I know it's on its way to making it. So it's going to be that eventually, but I don't know if it's next year or not.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I wonder if that will maybe create more of like a push to really, hey, we got to get more lacrosse teams here. And
well, their teams are. I mean, they're growing. It's growing. So we'll see.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? It's a busy time of year, and second half of my week. I'll start, I guess, with I wasn't at this one, but Placer Track and Field finished their Foothill Valley League season undefeated. They beat boys and girls both beat Ponderosa, so now they're rolling unbeaten into the FEL finals this week at West Park. So congratulations to them. It actually came down to the 4x4 relay, and Placer had to win this to win the meet and finish league undefeated. They finished with a time of 4 minutes, 19.24 seconds. Ponderosa finished with 4 minutes, 19.89 seconds. So Placer gets about 0.6 seconds faster than Ponderosa to finish league undefeated. So congrats to them, and I'll be at the FVL meet, one of them this week. We'll get into that later. But Friday, I was actually took a little break from high. Oh, one more thing Friday too. Del Oro baseball hit a walk-off grand slam to beat Whitney 7-4 on Friday. So shout out to them. Ben Brown, I believe, was the one that hit it. So big win for Dio. But
just to throw in there, with Folsom beating Oak Ridge, thanks to Ben Brown for the grand slam too.
Yeah, I would assume so. And again, point taken of the SFL, you never know who's going to win. But the second half of the week, I was at the 100-miler run for the Canyons endurance run on Friday. That began at 9 a.m. And I covered the start of it, and then we'll get back into the second half of it. But then the rest of my Friday, I was over at the Gold Country Rodeo watching the events of that night. It's the first time they did a Friday night rodeo. So I caught that, checked out, the events there. And then I went back to downtown Auburn for the first finisher of the Canyons 100-miler, who didn't come in until 2:05 a.m. on Saturday morning, finishing in 17 hours, 5 minutes, and 16 seconds. So about what I probably would have ran 100 miles into. And the winner of that was Mathieu Clement of Switzerland. He actually was in a sprint to the finish line. He ran side by side with, I believe it's Kanua Luo of China. They ran both of them side by side, led the entire 100-mile race, I think for like 97 of the miles or something crazy like that. And they actually both finished in 17 hours, 5 minutes, and 16 seconds. So it was about a half-second difference. So 100 miles and you get a photo finish. I mean, that's unbelievable. And, all 20 people that were there at the finish line at 2 a.m. Got to witness a pretty awesome finish. Clement pretty much just collapsed right when he crossed the finish line. He was just overtaken by exhaustion and emotion. It was awesome to see. So,
Hey, Jordan, did you get the photo finish?
I did I kind of did. The problem is I had my camera all set up. I'm checking the lighting that they have. I get it perfectly set up. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to get this. It's going to look good. And then they both round the corner and they're both wearing headlamps.
Oh.
So can't see anything. So I whipped my phone out. I took some photos, try to get a little bit of the photo finish. I got some good stuff, but nothing great. Instead, I got a picture of Clement holding up the finishing tape like that at the finish line. So still got the good art, but yeah. Canyon Woodward of Maine was the first American to cross the line. He actually finished third in 17 hours, 46 minutes, 5 seconds. So Canyon didn't quite win the Canyons. But hey, you know what? Sometimes those beautiful storylines are just not meant to be.
Hey, can I ask you how many people participated in that?
It was 1,900 in all of the runs. So they have the 100-miler, 100K, 50K, and a 25K. The 100K, 50K, 25, those were on Saturday at 5 a.m. I did not stick around for that. But I believe it was 302 started the run, and I don't know the exact number of finishers. I believe it was somewhere around 215.
All right, just wondering.
So, I don't know. Maybe we should start a 100-mile run team. What do you guys think?
I'll
make it probably about maybe 10% of the way.
I mean, that's still good. Like I every time I ask people why they do this, I'm just like, why? And they're just, get different answers, but none of them to me seem good enough to run 100 miles willingly.
I used to run cross country. The most we ever ran, I think, in a day was like a 10K, maybe a little more than that. It's like 6.5. And yeah, that was insane. So yeah.
See, I gave cross country and I gave track a try both in middle school, and I quit them pretty early. And my parents were like, why? And I'm like, I grew up playing, football, basketball, baseball, rugby, whatever you could name. And I was like, if I don't have a reason to be running, why is the sport running? Like, I was like, no, I want to, if I'm running because I'm trying to get to a spot on the football field or the basketball court or, whatever. I'm not running just to run. But hey, shout out to those who do it. Impressive job. And we've got a big week coming up this week. Or I guess first athletes of the week. I mentioned some big shout outs. Marcus Mader, doing the no-hitter for Colfax. You're gonna have to take the cake for me. And then I know he's not a local athlete, but Mathieu Clement, if you run 100 miles better than anyone else who was running 100 miles with you, and you do that in less than a day, props to you. You deserve Athlete of the Week recognition. So a shout out to you, but those are my two biggest performances I saw.
I guess he'd be Athlete of the World.
Yeah, Athlete of the World. I like it. Hey, if you're going to travel halfway across the world for a race, you might as well win. So, Aaron, over to you, though. What were some of the best performances you saw this week?
Yeah, so for Lincoln, I mentioned it already, but it's going to be Shea Palafox. I mean, it was such a huge game for Lincoln because, only top 3 teams in the FPL make the playoffs. They still, have to play well. I mean, I don't think they'll beat Ponderosa, but they're probably going to have to win most of the rest of their games, if not all of them outside of that game. And so she had a huge performance there, with the 2 RBI go-ahead single and what she did on the mound. So she's one of the 4 seniors on the softball team. She gets Athlete of the Week this week. For South Placer, it's kind of cool. I'm going to go with Kale Cochran, the sophomore over at Whitney Volleyball. If that last name sounds familiar, it's for a reason. His sister Caitlin was an Athlete of the Week earlier in the fall, and she helped lead the Lady Wildcats to a section title. And now Kale is going to try to go do the same for the boys' side. He had 28 kills and a 4-set win over Rockland to close out the regular season last Thursday. Whitney are a 2 seed in Division I and are ranked 3rd in the Sac Joaquin section. Cochran is the younger brother of, I mentioned that already. Sorry, I sometimes get a little ahead of myself. But he's actually leading the team in kills this year. I think he's 12th in the Sac Joaquin section, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do. I'm going to be announcing the section championships for boys volleyball, so maybe I'll see Whitney there. I know last year that they lost to Jesuit, so we'll see if they can make it a little bit further this year. But yeah, I got a photo of Kale and Caitlin together that I'm going to use for the piece too. So really cool story there, and I'm interested to see how far they can make it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another sport that, again, right down the wire in playoffs. And another league, the SFL, where stacked and anyone can win. Matt, over to you. Who are some of the best performances you saw this week?
Well, my athlete of the week is Oak Ridge's Annika Taylor. Sorry, Tanner. Annika Taylor or Tanner, sophomore. She scored 7 goals to lead the team to 18-4 win over Davis. She's second. She's a coach. She's a sophomore. She's Coach Nathan Handel said she's the most improved player on the team. Yeah, so she's second on the team with 45 goals, first in ground balls, first in draw controls, second in shots taken, third on the team in calls turnovers, and it's probably the fastest girl on the team. So that's my athlete of the week. And I wanted to point out 2 other teams here. Volleyball, Folsom has a 3rd seed in the Division I bracket, and they wanted to be on the opposite side of the Jesuit. They wanted to be on the opposite side of the bracket of the Jesuit, and they achieved that this year. So, they want to beat Jesuit in the finals. That's their goal. Whitney is the number 2 seed. They'll have to deal with them, but they did beat them a couple of weeks ago. So there's hope there. And then the Vista boys is a 12th seed in the Division II bracket. They open up at Granite Bay Tuesday. And in tennis, I just noticed Oak Ridge is number 2 seed in Division I, and Vista's number 1 seed in Division III. So got some tennis teams playing too.
Hey, big stuff there. And that's actually another shout out I want to give. Colfax Tennis won their league again. I think I might have mentioned that Monday actually. So or Tuesday, whatever day we were.
You can do it twice. You can mention it twice.
Yeah, they still won it. So nothing changed in the last week. This week's going to be a big week for some games. I know it's going to be another flexible schedule for me this week. I know that some matchups I have an eye on that I plan to be at. Tomorrow is going to be a busy day. Like I said, I'm going to be at the FBL track championships. And then Forest Hill Girls Soccer won their league, and they're going to be playing in the opening round of the Division 7 Girls Soccer Championships. They're playing Western Sierra. And they beat Western Sierra earlier in the year. I believe it was 4-3. And it should be another good game. That was on the road. This one's going to be, it says neutral game. I believe it's going to be at Forest Hill. Wildfires are 12-3. They went 9-1 in the CVCL. So big matchup for them. The winner of that's going to play the winner of John Adams Academy and Sac Waldorf. So should be a good one. That game would be on Thursday. Another one to keep an eye on, Del Oro Granite Bay baseball. The winner of that series going to playoffs. The loser of that series is turning in their gear next week. So that's going to be a big one. Game 1 of that series is today. Game 2 is going to be on Wednesday. I believe that's going to be the one that I'm at. Depending on who wins today's game, game 2 could be the playoff clincher. Another big series to keep an eye on, Placer Oakmont baseball. Winner of that one is likely probably getting the 2 seed in Division 4, and the loser getting a 3 or a 4 seed. So big one. Like I talked about earlier, Colfax Marysville baseball is a big one, and then of course the Bear River series against Wheatland this week in baseball. Sorry, that's Colfax Marysville softball. Bear River baseball. Del Oro also has a home playoff volleyball game against Elk Grove tomorrow night. So that's one that I'll be keeping an eye on. And Colfax tennis is playing, I believe, John Adams Academy in the co-ed tennis tournament. So a big week, a lot of playoffs. One of those where, I can't be everywhere at once, but I'm going to try to be as many places as I can. So we're going to have a lot of coverage for you. Aaron, over to you. What are some of the games that you have your eye on this week?
Yeah, I may, if Western Sierra or John Adams win, I may try to make my way to the second round of the playoffs on Thursday night. But in terms of getting into the stuff for earlier this week, today, pretty much right after this show, I'm going to be driving over to River Oaks and Nicholas to catch some CVC boys golf for the boys golf tournament, and we'll watch Roseville and Wood Creek, get some pictures there. Then I'll make the 30-minute drive down, I guess that's 70/99, over to Mahaney Park to watch Wood Creek softball face St. Francis. That should be a good game. Timberwolves are 8-1 in the CVC with 3 games remaining, currently ranked 19th in the section. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going to Timber Creek to watch the SFL boys tournament for a while and get some picks and check some results. I may also cover something else, but that's kind of to be decided at this point. Thursday, at least the first event of the day is kind of to be decided because I'd like to announce senior night for Lincoln softball, but I also really want to see Roseville versus Wood Creek baseball. So what I'm thinking is catch most of Roseville versus Wood Creek baseball and then go over to the soccer game if they're playing. But you might want to tune in to find out where I'm at because I'm still kind of up in the air with that. Friday, I know for sure where I'll be at. I will be announcing and covering Lincoln versus West Park baseball. For all we know, this could decide Lincoln's fate for the postseason. My West Park pick for finishing second in the league actually didn't look too bad until the Placer sweep this last week. So now they're pretty much out of playoff contention unless they can somehow sweep Lincoln and get some help. So we'll see what happens with that series. But yeah, that's pretty much my plans for the week.
All right, I like it. Matt, what about you? Where are you going to be?
Well, I will check out the Oak Ridge at Whitney baseball game today. Oak Ridge has to sweep them to win. So we'll see what happens in game one. Tuesday, I'll watch Folsom volleyball play Pittman in the first round of the volleyball playoffs. Wednesday, if Oak Ridge wins Monday, I may be back at that game 2 of that series. If not, I'll either go check out Folsom, Rockland, or Vincent Christian Brothers. That's to be decided. Thursday, Oak Ridge girls are on the home lacrosse match. I'll be there. Friday, if Oak Ridge wins the first 2 games, I could be back at Whitney. I could be at Folsom baseball. I could be at Vista baseball. I could be at Vista softball. That's kind of up in there.
All right, I like it. It's another busy week, and like we said, a lot of these playoff races are entering the last week of the season are still just as murky as ever. I mean, who knows what it's going to be, but I think we're going to have a fun week ahead of us and a fun postseason ahead of us. So that's kind of going to do it for this episode of the Sports Jam. Before we get going, does anyone have anything we want to add?
Probably, I know that depending on how many teams we have for softball and baseball, that could be relatively busy too, but this is most likely going to be probably the busiest week of the year since February at least. So looking forward to seeing a lot of good stuff and hope we have some teams to make a run.
Definitely. Matt, how about you?
Tell me what?
I guess anything you want to add before we get going, or we just wanted to see your face again, Matt.
I just got a text message. I look over like, Matt, what am I supposed to say?
We've been talking to you this whole time. What are you talking about?
I'm good. I have nothing to add.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again for tuning into another episode of the Gold Country Sports Jam. I've been Jordan.
I've been Aaron. Go Warriors. Let's go beat LeBron.
I'll give you that at least. I will give you that. Anti-LeBron. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.